Hi, my name is Matt Dunnigan, and today I will be discussing the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment, in part, says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of the law. So, as a historian, I should be unbiased, thorough in my research, and make every attempt to be objective in all my work. As historians, we cannot be partial to our countries of origin. While my view is the United States is one of the greatest countries that's ever existed, I cannot let that view blind me from the shortcomings that the United States has and the mistakes that the country as a whole has made. One of the things that have made the U.S. as great as it is has been the Bill of Rights, and inside the Bill of Rights is the Fifth Amendment. This Fifth Amendment protects the very fabric of our democracy. It was already stated in the earlier Article 1 of the Constitution, and it's just reiterated here in the Fifth Amendment. Part of it again says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This law is incredibly important as it protects everyone's inalienable rights that are given by God. As we analyze the very foundation of our great democracy and our freedoms, it is key to point out that the expression of ideas and conscience found in the First Amendment are very important. But just as important are the protections of our lives, our liberties, and our properties. While the First Amendment enumerates those liberties, the Fifth Amendment ensures that they are protected and that we are not deprived of them without good reason and due process of the law. One of the main challenges and complications with the Due Process Clause is what exactly establishes due process. How far does it actually extend? For example, in the 1940s, the U.S. had been recently attacked at Pearl Harbor, losing over 2,000 citizens, some military, some civilians, to the Empire of Japan's attacks. Shortly after that, the U.S. government rounded up over 100,000 Japanese Americans, not just Japanese. They were Japanese American citizens, and they forced them to leave their homes, read and hear property, and relocate to internment camps. These internment camps were similar to Nazi concentration camps without the gas chambers and death. They were restricted, their liberties were restricted, and their lives were ruined. These individuals were uprooted from their homes and lives, and many lost everything. The only reason that these individuals were treated this way was because of their ethnicity. Fred Korematsu sued the federal government under the idea that his Fifth Amendment rights were being violated because there was no evidence or even due process to point to him or any Japanese Americans as being dangerous to the U.S. and its war efforts. Unfortunately, SCOTUS, that's the Supreme Court of the United States, ruled that it was in fact legal. The government justified this internment by military necessity. General DeWitt lied exclusively and extensively, saying that a considerable danger of espionage and sabotage existed. Some Japanese, DeWitt stated, had actually used illegal radios and shore-to-ship signaling to aid Japanese forces. The final report of this also called Japanese Americans a large, unassimilated, tightly knit racial group bound to an enemy nation by strong ties of race, culture, custom, and religion. In hindsight, we see that these were actually lies that were perpetrated by DeWitt to have the Japanese interred. In this case, the Supreme Court declared that the internment did not violate the Constitution. Justice Hugo Black wrote the opinion for the majority and said that all legal restrictions which curtail the civil rights of a single group are immediately suspect, and courts must subject them to most rigid scrutiny. However, he said, and he concluded that the court had no choice but to defer to the judgment of military authorities. And we now know that these military authorities were lying. And if we had had due process of the law, these individuals would not have had their lives ruined. In today's world, this issue still exists. How far do we go to imprison potential terrorists without any evidence? Between Pearl Harbor and comparing Pearl Harbor and 9/11, there were similar loss of life. Would it have been constitutional for us to round up all American citizens that were of similar ethnic backgrounds of the hijackers, every single one, and imprison them in internment camps? How far should a country go to protect its citizens and not infringe upon the rights of other citizens? In Micah Herzig, in his one of his journal articles, says the executive orders issued by President Bush and the policy changes made by Attorney General John Ashcroft signal an administration moving towards Korematsu. This is 15 years ago. That is to say, they're placing the security of the majority above the constitutional guarantee of liberty protected by due process. It should be noted that other presidents have answered the call to arms in very similar liberty-suspending ways. The clarity of hindsight, however, declaims such actions as an attack against American values, ineffective in waging war at home or abroad. And I found a quote by John Ashcroft as being very ironic. In this whole area, this is what he said, and I'll end with this. He said, with that being said, I will end. He said, we're going to protect and honor the Constitution, and I don't have the authority to set it aside. If I had the authority to set it aside, this would be a dangerous government, and I wouldn't respect it. So today we have the question we need to answer. How far do we go to suspend due process of the law? How far do we go to protect civil rights and civil liberties? We have we have the right to life, liberty, and property. How far do we go? Thank you.